Okay, yesterday we drew the fennec fox from Algeria, and today we're going to draw the ring-tailed lemur from Madagascar. Now, as I mentioned, you can feel free to draw any of the animals from around the world from the list that was provided here in the video. And so what I thought we'd do today is, and again, draw any animal you want, but I'm going to be drawing this Madagascar, or this ring-tailed lemur. We're going to do just like we did the last time, which is, by the way, with this character, I did not erase my lines. So when I drew him with the pencil, if you look really close, I don't know if you can tell or not, so all of my pencil lines are still in place. And if they're hard to see, it's because, as I always say to students, to make sure that you're holding your pencil lightly, and that way you can create nice light lines. And so when I finish with a piece of art, and then I erase the lines that are already light, they always disappear, which means that no one can ever see any of my mistake lines. So keep that in mind as you're drawing. Okay, so let's get to the drawing. Okay, so everything we're going to reduce to just a basic form, and so this nice circle for his head. And I think I'm going to draw his head a little bit lower this time because I wanted to make his tail slightly longer, but I drew the picture too high on the page. So this time I'm going to draw a little bit lower. But it is the shape of a circle. And I don't want to get it too close to this edge, which I think I was doing, which would preclude me from drawing his other ear. So let's see, we have our nice circle here. Erase that. Okay, let's see. A nice circle here. Okay, cool. Okay, now then his ears are what I call soft triangles. Okay, I call them soft triangles because they don't have hard points here. They're curved. But they are more of a triangle than any other shape. I guess the second shape would be an oval in terms of a shape that sort of addresses the way the ears look. Okay, so he's got those nice ears now. And then this part would actually be black as is drawn there. Now I say that actually that's not necessarily true in that it is pretty consistent with the look of the animal, but I always like to remind students that you guys are in control of your art. And if you wanted to draw this character purple or pink or yellow, you can absolutely do that. Okay, so let's start on his little body now. And his body shape is the shape of an oval. It's almost like a bean-shaped oval. See this little arc in his back, a little curve. So it looks kind of like a little bean attached to his head. Okay, and from there, I'm going to go ahead and draw its tail. And its tail looks like a subtle or flattened letter S. So we start in this direction and go in this direction. Now we're arcing back or curving back in this direction. Now we're curving back in this direction. But of course you could draw your tail, different than this if you want to. But it looks a little bit like a letter S. Okay, now let's see. I guess since I'm back here, I'll work on his back leg. So I'm going to go right inside this oval with a line. This is going to be the front edge of his the upper back leg. Okay, and so now I'm going to go back to the back end of him, and I'm going to arc or curve this arc in the same direction as this one. All right, so now I'm going to go in the other direction. Now we're going down like that. See, erase the line here. Now you can really see its back leg really well. So now I'm going to straighten this out and draw its little foot. Initially, I'm just going to draw his foot as just a shape, and we'll go back and draw his feet later. So there's his first little back leg. So his second one, we're going to, of course, go in the same angle that we have this one. Now we're going to follow the same angle that we have here. And this time we want to make sure, since that leg's on the other side, we want to make sure that we draw that shorter. So now I'm going to go to the bottom here and indicate just the general shape of its foot. So now, and by the way, I hope I'm drawing this dark enough. I forget to draw a little bit darker so that you guys can see. I hope you can see that. Okay, now I'm going to draw its front legs. Now, sometimes what I'll do is I'll go ahead and extend a line, a very light line, across the bottom edge of his foot that we have drawn. And that way, that'll have a guide so that I can make sure that his front foot is going to be on the same level. Okay, so we're going to extend the front edge of his front leg, upper front leg, which is kind of going straight down. So now we're going to angle this lower portion of his front leg this direction. And this is to the back part of it, being mindful of how wide we're making it. Okay, now angle that this way. And I could get rid of this later. I think I'll do it now. Okay, so now we can draw its front foot. And we're looking, of course, at the length of his back foot to make sure they're pretty consistent. Now let's do the other front leg. Follow the same angle that we had this line. And then I'll angle this even more. So see, this is angled like this, and this is angled even more. And we'll make sure that other foot is on the same plane as this. And if you needed to, you could draw a line there as well. But I'm just going to kind of eye it, as they say. Just sort of make sure it's around the same. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I can see that I have a little triangle shape in between his legs here that I'm going to create here. Now, if yours are closer, that's not a big deal, okay? So that doesn't make it wrong, okay? If yours happen to be closer without a triangle in the middle of your legs, okay? So now let's go ahead and work on some of the details, okay? So I think since I'm down here, I'm going to, he's got this underneath part of his little body here. I think I'll just go ahead and create that here. So I'm going to make his leg a little higher like that. And then I'll do this part as well. Okay, and let's see, so I think, you know what I think I might do on mine. You guys may not need to do this on yours, but see, this is why it's so important to keep your lines nice and light, is I think I'm going to angle mine up a little bit more. See, not a big change, but one that I felt I needed to make. You may or may not need to make that on yours. Okay, now, and I hope this isn't too light. You guys let me know if it is. Well, I guess you can't let me know now, but let Miss Lori know. Okay, anywho, so let's work on the face now. So he's got these nice big eyes, and this is why I love cartooning, because you can take something that may naturally have big eyes and you can make them as big as you want. And when you're drawing more realistically, you really can't do that. So, okay, so then I'm going to draw a circle inside those circles that I just drew. And this is actually his eye opening. The other part is just going to be that black part that's around his eyes. Okay, and then inside of there, of course, we have our, look like little candy things or something. Okay, but inside there, we're going to go ahead and draw his eyeballs. And then I've got two highlights in each eye. And I love highlights. In fact, I always tell kids that, although it's not wrong if you don't put highlights in the eyes, but man, those highlights really make the eyes pop. And of course, when you're coloring this in, then you'll leave the highlights white and it makes it really pop. Okay, so let's draw the nose, or actually, you know what? I think I'll draw the mouth first. Yeah, I'll draw the mouth. And so I'm going to just draw a nice big letter U. So he's got this nice big happy smile. Now underneath there, I'm going to draw another letter U connected to this letter U, but notice how I'm going to draw this underneath letter U. So see how it's the underneath letter U is sort of on this end of the upper letter U. In other words, see how this arc of the bottom letter U connects with this arc of the upper letter U. But if you follow this all the way around here, the upper letter U on the is way over here, but the bottom one is here, you see? And that's just because his face is at an angle. If his face were not at an angle, if it were looking straight at you, then both sides would be like this, okay? So inside there, we have his little tongue that's a little visible. So I'm thinking of the letter, well, actually, I'm thinking of like a heart shape as I draw the upper part of his tongue, which might be kind of hard to see. And then he's got that split in his tongue like that. Okay, so now I'll draw his little nose above that. And that's pretty much just like an oval shape. Like that. And then, so I've drawn his nose higher here than I did there. Okay, so, which means that this black around his nose is going to be closer to his eyes in this particular version, which is fine. But if you wanted your nose lower and farther away from the black around his eyes, then you could draw his nose lower. Okay, so now I'm just going to go around his entire mouth with this shape like that. Okay, so he's got these little floating eyebrows. I love floating eyebrows, and you can draw floating eyebrows if you want, and if you don't want, that's fine too. So, and then he's got this really awesome hairdo, so, which are basically a couple of triangles. See the little triangle there, another triangle there, and then here we have a triangle part sort of at the bottom, like this. See? And that way it gives them a little bit more character, I think. Now, it might be kind of fun. I could really do some other fun stuff with his hair. It could be kind of fun. Like, I could give him like some Elvis Presley sideburns. That could be interesting. So you can do all kinds, you can put earrings on his ear. You can do all kinds of fun stuff with cartoons if you want, because that's what makes cartoons fun. He could have on high heel shoes, or I guess if he had on high heel shoes, it'd be more like a she. But she could have on high heel shoes. You could do any kind of fun stuff with cartooning. Okay, so now let's go ahead and draw its little toes. So he's got 1, 2, 3 toes. And you can draw more on yours if you want. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. So now he's got some toes. And so now, oh yeah, I guess I better go ahead and draw his rings around his tail. And you can draw as many or as few rings as you want. And then the rest of that's just going to be darkened in. And so now we could take you can take your Sharpie. And in fact, I usually do this before, which is what I did here, before I even clean up all my sketch marks. I take my Sharpie, and I can't find the one that I want. And then we just trace over the entire thing. In fact, I'll do one of the eyes really fast. So see, that one's going to have 2 highlights in each eye, and this one will just have 1. See what that highlight does when you don't fill in that middle circle? It makes it look really cool and 3-dimensional. But yeah, so if you have a Sharpie, you can take your Sharpie and trace around the entire thing. And if you're doing that, and by the way, what I would do is when you're coloring, is so you trace around the entire thing with a Sharpie. And then when you're finished with that, then you erase your pencil. You erase the whole thing, which if you remember to hold your pencil lightly, your pencil lines will disappear. And then what I would do in terms of coloring, especially this around his nose, because his nose is black and so is this area around his nose and his mouth. So I would use like, if you colored his nose with like a marker, let's say, and then you could color the rest of the black around his mouth with a colored pencil. And what will happen is both the black around his mouth and his black nose will show well, because the pencil will be a much softer black than the marker. So that's a really fun, or not, well, not really fun, but effective way to make sure that both of those areas show up even though they're the same color. So yeah, so now you just go around your entire character with a Sharpie if you happen to have one. And then color in all the black areas. And he will look awesome, he or she. So anywho, so I'll finish this up and I will show you the finished version tomorrow so that the video is not too long. And this is really awesome. So tomorrow, I think we will work on a giraffe. And in fact, I won't show it to you today because I've got a really fun surprise with my giraffe. So this was really fun and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.